Section 7-2, representing a function. Recall that a function is a relationship between two quantities called the input and the output, where each input there is exactly one output. Where for each input there is exactly one output. You can represent functions in 4 ways. Each of these ways can be considered a view of the relationship. When you know one view, you can usually determine the remaining 3 views. So let's first look at the first way that you can view a relationship. An ordered pair is a set of ordered pairs, identifies specific values that satisfy the function. So one of the ways that we can view it is an ordered pair. We've been talking about ordered pairs. Ordered pairs would be x, comma, y. X standing for input, y is the output. So let's look at our problem. Suppose a car gets 28 miles per gallon. In other words, that's for 1 gallon. If you put 1 gallon of gas in this car, you can travel 28 miles. That's what 28 miles per gallon means. In this situation, distance is a function of the number of gallons of gasoline. So if we put 1 gallon of gasoline in this car, we will travel a distance of 28 miles before we run out of gas. That's what this sentence means to us, okay? So what I want us to talk about here is the input is the number of gallons of gas. So in this situation, 28 miles per gallon, if we travel if we get 1 gallon, we're going to travel 28 miles. So the first one is your X would be the number of gallons of gas that you put in the car, and that is X, your input. Your Y is going to be the miles that you travel, or your distance. Miles that you travel or your distance. So for 1 gallon of gas, that's X, you will travel a distance of 28 miles. Now that's what we can get from that system that we were being described here. Suppose a car gets 28 miles per gallon. For 1 gallon, you will travel 28 miles. So 1 is your X input, Y is your output, 28 miles. The input is the number of gallons of gas. The output is the distance. So here they've described to you 1 is 28. Now, what if we put 2 gallons? Well, if the first gallon was 28, 2 gallons would be 28 plus 28. To get the output for 2 gallons, it would be 28 plus 28. So you can add that to the side. 28 plus 28 would mean we would get 56 miles if we put in 2 gallons of gas. Another way you could do it is you could also multiply 28 times 2. That's another way to get 56. Then if we put 3 gallons of gas in our car, 3 gallons of gas, how many miles can we travel? Well, you can add 28 3 times, or you can either say 3 times 28. Either way, you're going to get 84. So if we put 3 gallons of gas in this car, we can travel 84 miles. All right, so ordered pairs was one way of viewing a relationship. Next, let's look at our table of values. We could also use a table of values to view our data. A table identifies specific values that satisfies the function. Having column for input, column for output. This is the table of values view. For 1 gallon of gas, you're going to travel 28 miles. 2 gallons of gas, 56. 3 gallons of gas, 84 miles. And 4 gallons of gas, 112 miles can be traveled. Next, we can look at a graph. We can make a graph. A graph gives a visual picture of the function. In other words, this point represents 0, 0. In other words, if you don't buy any gas, you can't travel anywhere. So it's 0 miles. This point represents 128. Now, this horizontal axis represents the number of gallons of gas, because it is your x-axis, number of gallons of gas. Your vertical axis, vertical is up and down, it represents your distance in miles. So for 1 gallon of gas, we will travel 28 miles. This point, to the right 2, up 56, that's 256. That represents the ordered pair 256. For 2 gallons of gas, 56 miles. And then you have 3 gallons of gas for 84 miles and 4 gallons of gas for 112 miles. Okay? So a graph is another way that you can view a relationship. Next, I want us to talk about an equation. Creating an equation that represents this same data, but a different view. A function is a rule for taking each input value and producing exactly one output value. So when we had the situation previously of for every gallon, we can travel 28 miles. That's what we will use to create our equation. We have the equation y equals to 28x. Remember, per 1 gallon of gas, we can travel 28 miles. So therefore, we can write the equation y equals to 28x. Y is the output variable, distance in miles. X is the input variable, number of gallons of gas. So if I plug in 1 for X, I would have Y equals to 28 times 1. 1 being the gallons of gas. If I plug in 1 in for X, what is 28 times 1? Well, 28 times 1 would be 28. Therefore, for every gallon of gas, I would get 28 miles. So therefore, my equation is y equals to 28x. Y equals to 28x.